So it just hit 10 o'clock, well, 1 o'clock out east. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Here in Vancouver, it's cool and mild. I'd like to thank you all for joining us here for ZoloCon. My name is Belle Pimentel. I'm the head of talent and culture, and I'll be your moderator for this exciting session. Can I just ask all of our speakers, when you are not speaking, to please put yourself on mute. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our panel of speakers today, the executive leadership team here at Zolo. We have the next hour together, and you'll be hearing from Riley Best, co-founder and chief executive officer, Jason Billingsley, co-founder and chief product officer, Mustafa Abbasi, chief revenue officer and president, who filled our morning with some LMAO, awesome jokes, thank you so much, and our two newest members of the leadership team, and that is Matt Roby, our chief technology officer, and Anders West, chief operating officer. I encourage all members in the audience to please plug in your questions into the chat section over to the right. And I will be, we'll begin first with introductions, then open up the stage for Q&A. So just again, another reminder, panelists, when you're not speaking, please keep yourself on mute. I will try my best to do the same on my end. And when I address you, please start by introducing yourself by name, position held with the business, and please share a little bit about your background. So without further ado, thank you again, everyone, for joining, as I see a few more people slowly entering the event. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with Riley.
I'm Riley. I'm the founder and CEO of Zolo. I'm not sure if my name is showing up on the bottom, but hopefully it is. What was our first question? Now I've blanked. I guess I'll go into the questions I was assigned. So,
lost Riley there.
We did lose him. I hope he'll be joining back in a couple of seconds. So we'll go ahead. Jason, please take over the stage.
Hey, I'm Jason Billingsley. I'm Chief Product Officer, and half the time I'm wearing the marketing hat around Zolo as well. History for myself, I've been digitally involved with the web since the mid-90s, 95-ish, and started a web agency kind of out of high school. Started deconstructing how stuff was made, how it was marketed, doing paid ads, doing organic search optimization, pre-Google days, and then built that into a software company called Elastic Path, and grew that to the point where we were competing with companies like Oracle and IBM in the e-commerce software space. And we had clients like Symantec and Google, the Vancouver Olympics. And after that, had the ability to go out and do a ton of speaking around the world on e-commerce, digital marketing, social media, and retail. And then my wife and I took a year to travel, and then shortly after, I did an e-commerce turnaround at a retailer, and we were about to start a family. Met Riley through John Cartwright and Barry, and in 2012, we started out Zolo, and yada yada yada. Here we are today with 15 million visits a month from home shoppers looking to level up the way they buy, sell, rent, finance, and learn about real estate in Canada.
Thank you so much, Jason. Riley, you're up.
Okay, let's try again. Sorry, the mute button crashed it when I unmuted. So my name is Riley. I'm the CEO and founder of Zolo. Like I say, I guess we started this, even pre-2012. I've been a founder for my whole adult life and really never had a job. And so my first startups were actually in online dating. And so that kind of led into, and had a bit of success there. And then sort of following, someone's life, I moved into real estate, which to me seemed very similar to online dating, where people looked at a lot of pictures, I had emotional connections, and in the end went out on a date to change their life. And so, and 10 years later, we're still in the real estate side of the business. Am I answering these?
Mustafa, you're up for intros. Thanks, Riley.
You're muted.
You're just on mute.
Sorry, guys. I mean, I should be the expert using this hop-in technology, and I forgot to unmute myself. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mustafa Abbasi. I'm the President and Chief Revenue Officer for Zolo. I spend a lot of time with our growth managers. I spend a lot of time with our realtors. I am also a broker coming up on like 20 years. And I remember when we first, in the beginning at Zolo, it was, we were in a 10,000 square feet office, and it was just myself, Deep, and Brooke in the Toronto office, and it was Riley, Jason, and John in the West Coast office. So we've grown a lot, and I'm really happy to kind of be here and, learn a little bit more and help people in their career, in their real estate career. Before Zolo, I was a partner and a broker of record for a small boutique brokerage in Toronto. Within the last 20 years, I've spent time in commercial real estate, in industrial real estate, residential real estate. I also took a few years of a break and started my own contracting company in which the US government, which was my largest client, had a lot of fun with that, but I couldn't resist, came back to real estate. And here we are now, fast forward, like Jason said, part of something really cool. 15 million visitors, visits last month, and over 800 agents. I'm so excited to be here. So that's my story.
Great. Thanks so much, Mustafa. Matt.
I'm going to start with, can everybody hear me right off the bat? Fantastic. Hi, everybody. My name's Matt Roby. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Zolo. I'm responsible for building or leading a team that builds all user-facing technology at the company. I joined in August of last year, so I've been here just a little bit over 6 months now. I can still carry the new guy card for just a little bit longer with Anders, but I'm going to have to trade that in soon for a long-termer. My background is super varied. I've worked in everything from teeny startups, so literally working from a warehouse based in Mississauga, which was my first gig after leaving the UK. Unfortunately, things kind of grew from there. Worked for a number of companies, number of different verticals, everything from entertainment, pharma, big data, e-commerce, and consulting, and building solutions for companies like GE, Sony, and Coca-Cola. Most recently, I served as CTO with Kijiji, and also as a member of the global tech leadership team for eBay.
Thanks very much, Matt. Anders, go.
Great. Thanks so much, Belle. And Matt, while it's top of mind, let me know when you no longer claim the newbie card so that I know that I have 4 weeks notice when I can ask all the
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay.
That's all you've got.
All right, great. Expect my silly questions over the next 21 days. My name is Anders West, and I'm Chief Operating Officer here at Zolo. With regards to my background, I'm an operations professional and business leader with 20 years specializing in growth and in process improvement. My experiences range from startups to the world's biggest multinationals. And I'll mention here that I have previously worked with Riley Best and Deep Singh 12 years ago on a very early version of Zolo, potentially. They may say the same. And it was an incredible business to work with Riley with. He was fresh off his with Riley and Deep, both of them fresh off of their experiences in online dating. And in terms of a startup, an interesting company, because it was the earliest days, and Deep and I were roommates in our office. So every morning we would wake up and then we would clear out our personal stuff so that our team could come into the office to build this property portal. My experiences also range from beyond startups. They go from corporate boardrooms to the front lines of coal mines. I've lived and I've worked in 11 countries on 5 continents. And most recently, I led Uber's business in the Nordics, based out of Stockholm, Sweden. And prior to that, I led Uber's business in Canada, based out of Toronto.
Thank you so much. So I'm just checking the chat here. I haven't seen any questions come in yet. So I'm just going to start with a few questions that came in earlier prior to the event. So first question is to Riley. Why did you start Zolo?
Okay, I guess I've always been interested in people's life-changing events. And so, I started out with online dating, helping people find their first date, and then helping people get married. And once I had left online dating, the obvious sort of next point in someone's, life cycle or in their life was buying their first house or really moving into a bigger house when they started to have a family. And so that's where I focused in on real estate. And Zolo came to be after I had immigrated back from the UK, where I had worked with Deep and Anders, and came back to Canada and tried again to start up a real estate business in Canada, really trying to focus on an end-to-end solution for the consumers, where everybody's goals were aligned to give the consumer a good experience and help them change their life for the better.
I'm going to go over to Jason. What is Zolo's goal and our plan for building and growing our home shop?
Well, let's talk about the history a little bit first of how we got to build the audience in the first place and why it's important. Audience, in my opinion, is probably the most difficult thing to do, to build one. Most startups in Canada want to be very disruptive and say we're going to change the world, and the reality is real estate's really a fractioned market. There's no big player that has the majority of share. Like no one has over 20%. So for us, we had to build up the biggest amount of home shoppers that we could, that would allow us to build out offerings in any direction that we chose to go. Mortgages, real estate services, who knows what the future holds, but the audience was always key. And I remember in the early days when we had, 5,000 visits in a particular day, it was fantastic. And then we did some very deliberate things to double that to 10,000. We thought, the world's our oyster now because we've just doubled traffic. And I was looking at my phone earlier today, and I have a screenshot of when we crossed 100,000 visits. And then pretty soon, just last month, we had our very first 500,000 visit day, which, that's a pretty remarkable feat. And everybody should be pretty proud of the investment they've put into that, because there's much more than just tech work and marketing that goes into it. It's very much brand building, and every interaction that we have with clients really highlights that brand that we're trying to build. And as people engage with our brand, it actually helps us get more and more exposure, particularly in search engines. So thank you everyone for your efforts. So to your original question is how we're building audience. I think with Zolo, everything that you see is very iceberg-like, 10% above and 90% below. And a lot of the simplicity of Zolo is supported by a lot of complexity on the back end. You kind of think about the calmness of a duck swimming on water, but underneath its feet are just like going like crazy. That's kind of Zolo in a nutshell. So for audience building, we're very fortunate to be in a position where we get a lot of traffic because Google really likes us. But that's not our only source. We have email, We do paid very well. And with regards to brand, we get a lot of people who just directly come to Zolo. So anything that we do in the future, I think, is just going to be compounding on that. And we're going to continue to focus on simplicity and ease of use and speed and all the good things that make Zolo Zolo. That should grow us. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Jason, while you have the stage, another question came in that I think that you probably would be the best to answer this one. The question is, does Zolo logo have anything to do with Google? Colors look very similar.
As a brand guy who's developed multiple brand identities in the past, it was very intentional. Yes. We're a digital first brokerage. We stand out in the fact that, we don't have multiple offices and everything. You really have to engage with us online. And when we did the rebrand for Zolo, folks know it was very Century 21. It was black and gold. And so when we switched to the multicolored pattern, it was a decision that was made simply because there was no other real estate brand that we could see that used a multi-brand pattern. And obviously a lot of the trends in the recent year or two has gone that direction, but it's worked out really, really well for us. So did Google inspire it? Probably not. It was more about the market opportunity, but yeah, I can see the similarities.
So that question came in. And I have another question from Jennifer Cho, and I think we'll give this one to Riley. And the question is, how the Zolo name came into existence? Any inspiring story behind the name?
Oh my God, I think there's not. Unfortunately, the actual answer is I think it was it just happened to be a 4-character domain name that we could buy for $10. I'm really sorry. And I was so surprised that it was sitting on GoDaddy, and I was like, oh, look at this and back in those days, I think it got it a long time ago. Companies that started with Z were cool. And so I was like, oh, that's a cool thing. I'll just buy that. It'll last for 5 minutes. And then still the name. And so, no, there was no big story. Just it happened. I also thought it looked funny because if you made a small Z and a big O and a big L and a big O, it kind of looked like a face. So, but it was just, yeah, it was like just a funny domain that ended up lasting.
Thanks, Riley. I think I remember when that same question, some sort of analytics behind it too, like something about most common searched name, real estate, 4-letter words were like the big hits or something like that. But maybe someone can clarify.
The truth is no. It was really the first thing we did, and we had no idea. And so it actually was just, and I know people say, oh, you're very similar to Zillow, and it was just happenstance that it was very similar. I honestly had just come back from the UK and didn't even know who Zillow was. So it just happened to be, we happened to think along the same lines, and the domain was just sitting there. So there was nothing smart about it, just luck.
I love how Jason's answer to the logo was so intentioned and thought out and purposeful, and how Riley's response to the name was, it was a $10 bargain on GoDaddy. It was a great contrast.
That's awesome. And I bet you if you look up Google and Yahoo, they probably paid $10 on GoDaddy as well. So who knows?
Totally. Mustafa, while you're on the stage, I'm going to throw one out to you. Can you tell us about our agents team's growth from early days to current state?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. First off, thank you to all those agents that believed in us in our early days when really nobody did. So I applaud every one of you. We had a much smaller team. Of course, we would meet in person every week. I see some names, Renata. I see Paul. Thank you again. Fast forward almost a decade later, I'm happy to see that, our concept actually works. Agents, realtors are able to make a very good living. As a matter of fact, we now have a large group of agents that are in the top 10% of all realtors across Canada. So big round of applause, pat yourselves on the back. It's been awesome just to see the growth in agents and realtors across Canada with Zolo.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Coming in. So actually, I'm going to go to Matt. I want you to share what has your journey with Zolo been like so far, and what do you expect for future plans with regards to technical development?
My journey with Zolo so far has definitely been a journey in a good way. So I was looking for a less corporate environment to be working in. I think I lean more startup, and Zolo is a really good fit from that aspect. Obviously, a fantastic opportunity as well. There's a lot of pre-existing history with Zolo, and some really amazing achievements to kind of live up to when you join the management team here. So a lot of my time has been spent kind of evaluating the technology we have, working on some things that are important like security, but also thinking about the foundation for the next products or the next services that are going to be coming down the pipe. I think the most challenging part of this, everybody's joined companies before, wasn't necessarily learning about Zolo, but was actually the pandemic in many ways. It's the first time I've ever interviewed for a gig purely by video conference. It's the first time I haven't walked into an office on day one and kind of gone out for lunch and met folks by the water cooler. And, I consider myself really lucky that Zolo is so warm and welcoming and personable and supportive, and made that as easy as it was, which is why this kind of format is fantastic, an opportunity to kind of reconnect with people and kind of level set with the team. But yeah, so far no complaints. Like I say, I can still wear the new guy card proudly for another 3 weeks. And then I'm part of the old guard as far as I'm concerned. Oh, and sorry, you also added a second part to that question about technology development coming along. When I talk about technology development, I don't want to talk necessarily about the technology because a whole lot of people in the audience are just going to fall asleep. I'd rather talk about what can be achieved with the technology. Zolo's always had an ongoing investment in the consumer experience, bringing top of funnel, bringing those leads in through the website. So whether it be improving the user experience or improving SEO, encouraging people to use the site, and that's an ongoing thing. It's the same with the CRM and the tools around the agent-facing systems. Was a continual investment in making sure that makes agents as productive as possible and their day-to-day lives a little easier. But kind of building on that, when I think about what's coming along after that, there's new verticals being added to the Zolo platform. So a really good example of that would be mortgages. So that's in its kind of V1 phase right now. And obviously that makes the platform more sticky. People have an opportunity to get more done in one place and utilize Zolo more frequently. But if I'm being a little selfish, I think the most exciting part as a technologist, at least, is almost what's coming down the pipe after that. I mean, we've been looking at the data that we have and how we can deliver more insights to the consumers visiting the site, how they can look at the information in a very personalized way. So it's the information they're looking for is kind of at their fingertips and meant for them. Equally, some of those real-time insights can be eventually pushed towards agents. So the exact same idea can be used to increase velocity or reduce sales friction, or increase the chance of a sale or a conversion for every lead that comes down the pipe. And as we kind of look at this idea of using data in different ways, we have the potential to answer some really fundamental questions and solve problems that consumers, buyers, and sellers have every day. So we can take the stress out of some of those decisions, or the anxiety. Can I afford a property? What might be worth in 5 years from now? What is next in the process? Are these conditions correct, and should I sign off on them? We can enable buyers and sellers to make decisions more easily and more quickly, and hopefully return more value on their investment in property, which is obviously the largest investment most people will ever make. And then ultimately, that also shortens the overall sales cycle. That long tail process becomes a wee bit shorter, which is very important. And interestingly, when you start boiling all this down, you can kind of say, if you can answer the fundamental question of, will this home that I'm looking at make myself and my family happy now and in 5 years from now? You're going to create a sale, yes, but you've brought kind of some genuine joy into a very stressful time potentially in somebody's life, and potentially there'd be a Zolo brokerage customer for life. I think that's really powerful, and if that's what Zolo can eventually do, I think that's amazing. That's part of the reason why I joined the company. Anyway, that's kind of where technology could potentially take us.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. Stage. I hope as a question came in from Xuan Liu, the question was, technologies and systems can we expect from Zolo in the future? You did touch a bit about it, about technologies. If there's another tidbit we can throw back at the audience, please let us know.
I was actually worried that the first thing you were going to say is, you've been on mute this entire time, Matt. I thought that was the first thing I was going to hear, so that's good. I won't go too deeply into technology or necessarily what's involved, but I'll throw out some buzzwords of things that we are definitely looking at. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, anything around analytics, or being able to pull more insights out of the data and then present that to consumers or agents.
Great, thank you. So we haven't heard from, I'm going to go ahead and set this question over to Anders. What has your journey with Zolo been so far? What do you expect for future plans for the business?
Awesome, thanks, thanks, Belle. So my journey with Zolo to date, I joined on the last day of August, 31st of August last year. So I've just crossed 6 months, and it has been a rapid learning experience as I try to wrap my head around a new business, a new industry. Get to know the people, the complexities of how property works in various provinces and just generally in Canada. My remit, my area of work is actually pretty broad. Yeah, Steve, 6 months. I had to do the math when I was prepping for this call. I can't believe it's 6 months too. It feels like in some ways a lifetime ago, and other times just yesterday. So my area of work is really broad, which has been super interesting professionally, but also adds that little bit of complexity in that I need to learn a bunch of things across various aspects of our business. So I work really closely with Belle, who's moderating our call on people, talent, HR related matters. I work really closely in what maybe I'll term as learning and development. I do that with Belle with regards to full-time employees, but I also do it with Jane Stevens and John Cartwright as it relates to you agents. I work really closely with Brooke Beach on onboarding and customer service. I work with our deal processing team. This is the team to whom you submit all of the paperwork when you close a deal. And then I work very closely with our growth managers. I speak to them on at least one of them on a daily basis for everything that is not requiring real estate specific expertise, because I'm not knowledgeable, and thankfully we have lots of people such as yourselves that do know the specifics there. So that's kind of what my 6 months have been, is sort of this rapid ascent to trying to figure out what this business is doing and figuring out where the priority areas are. I think, Bill, the second part of your question was related to what the future will look like. So I guess at the highest level, bird's eye view, I expect that we're going to continue to grow in our established markets, as well as expand into new markets where we're not yet represented, or where we have a limited representation, and truly become a national brokerage. But I guess if I get more granular on what is maybe more interesting for you and related to the experience that you'll have, I think there are a couple of main areas. That we're going to continue to improve in, and a couple of years down the road, hopefully, when we reflect back on what I said to you right now, that we can say yes, there have been improvements, and that first area is creating best-in-class training and knowledge resources, so our new agents can learn the industry, and for our more experienced agents, so that you're able to handle the most complex situations. And you will see early efforts here. So I've made an intentioned effort along with many of our colleagues to make some improvements. If you haven't been on Zolo Academy recently, please do so. There's a link in your CRM. If you need a link and you can't find it there, speak to your growth managers. The most recent version of Zolo Academy was launched on Monday. Absolute step change in terms of user experience and visualizations. I think if you haven't been since that went live on Monday, I think, oh great, thanks. John has just put a link there. Excellent, much appreciated, John. Click that link, check it out. I think you're going to be amazed at what that experience is now compared to what your first experience was. And this is just a couple of steps down the path that I expect to be a much longer journey in which we continue to improve here. Very open to feedback. Please provide it. John is going to type. I know his fingers are probably already typing how you can provide feedback, but do so on stuff that we love to hear where something is exactly as you would like it to be, but also where there can be improvements, both in terms of the content that you see, but also content that you think should be there that is not. So early on that journey, but super excited. So that's the first area. And to summarize that, best-in-class training and knowledge resources. The second area where I expect the future will hold some promising results is an investment into our tools of trade. This is just one piece of tech that Matt was speaking to. And improvement of our tools of trade, that will lead to you being best equipped, leverage technology to make you as efficient as possible in your business. That's inclusive of our CRM. I know you interact there on a daily basis. It will also include tools used for deal submission, that you submit to our administration team, as well as communication tools so that you can most efficiently communicate with your team. And then thirdly, the third area where I hope that when we reflect in a couple of years' time on what I'm saying to you now is that we will be able to say that we've made advancements in how communication goes between Zolo and between you, and that's a committed effort to doing a better job of speaking with you, of listening to you, and keeping you informed on what's going on. Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Riley, I think I'm going to ask you, as someone else on the team here, Asad Azizi, asked the same question. So maybe we'll hear from you on the topic. Where do you see Zolo in the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, it's really, again, the truth is we just don't know what the world looks like post-quarantine. And so that's the one thing that's, very far up in the air. Do people keep moving, or does it go to roaring 20s where everybody just wants to party and travel and no one cares about moving their house anymore? So we just don't know what those are going to be. But our big main goals is we want to do better on our sell side of the business, and we want to launch our mortgage side of the business. So for new things that you might see is a stronger focus and more resources to help you get listings, and also we start to grow our mortgage business from basically nothing would be the two big goals. But again, the world could change tomorrow, and with the way that everything is going, and so we just react. We get blown around in the economic winds, and sometimes we're just reacting. But that's what we're hoping will happen.
Awesome, thanks, Riley. Mortgages, Mustafa, do you want to tell us a little bit about mortgages?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Belle, and thanks, Riley, for mentioning Zolo Mortgages. So the simple reason why we relaunched Zolo Mortgages, we did launch it originally back almost a decade ago, but we consider this a relaunch, and it's really just the simple reason for that is to better support our customers and our realtors, and it was naturally the next best thing to do for Zolo, really. So we had launched it as a digital mortgage app, and this is to ensure customers have fast access to the best rates and service in the industry. And for our realtors, I think the real advantage is that our mortgage agents can act as your partners, and they act as your partners to help you get the deal done and put your customers in the home of their dreams. So I highly encourage you guys, if you haven't, you can go into any listing view page. In the bottom, you'll see a button that says you can apply for a mortgage. And yes, consumers can actually push that button and apply for a mortgage, all using the Zolo app. Thanks, Belle.
Mustafa, we're going to be highlighting that in the upcoming website update, where we expose something that we call the Afford Score, and where clients can put in information about their individual circumstances, such as how much income they have, how much debt, how soon they want to pay off their house to be mortgage free. And then once that's established, we can actually grade the likelihood that they could afford the home that they're looking at. And then we actually go a step further, because data is good, but insights are better. So we coach the home shoppers with a little bit of information, like increase your down payment so that you can, afford this, or maybe you need to pay down your debt a little bit, or your income has to come up by 10% before you can go into the green. And so we're actually going to be exposing that Afford Score technology throughout the website a little bit more in the coming period of time.
Awesome, and I had the pleasure of getting a little sneak peek at the new visuals. Damn, that looks really good. Good work, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. It's pretty exciting as we kind of move into the wealth management kind of area. It's awesome. Jason, while we had you, maybe I'll ask the next question to you. It was any plan in marketing the local realtors in their local markets for the customers to identify us as a professional realtor rather than just showing agents? And that question came in from Priyanka Bardwaj.
Yeah, that's a really interesting predicament. Just Zolo as an entire entity has been really focused on building our presence from a single entity. And so once you establish scale with that and enough people know about you and it creates momentum, I think naturally the visibility of the people that are participating in the marketplace will elevate. As we continue to focus on that overall big picture, hopefully it kind of rises the tides for everybody that's involved. In terms of individual things, I know that there's been lots of discussion throughout the years at Zolo about launching like neighborhood guides or things that are more localized. We have run tests frequently on the website to see how home shoppers react to different things that we do, like exposing agents and making them kind of at the center of the process, or maybe they're better kind of not hidden away, but behind a little bit, and seeing how consumers react to that. So there's a lot of data that goes into the decisions that we make on the user experience on the website. So I know I'm not answering the question, but it's definitely something that we do consider. It's that 90% that you don't see below the water in the iceberg analogy.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I think it was brought to attention my tech might be a little lagging, so I do apologize if I'm choppy, guys. I wanted to move on to the next question that was asked during Mustafa's chat about mortgages. Which lenders are we using, if you wanted to just clarify?
Good question. We have access to over 13 lenders currently. And we understand that not every customer is going to be from the same background. They're not going to be, employed, new immigrants, first-time buyers, refinance. So our access to lenders covers a wide variety of potential borrowers. So be rest assured, we have the lowest rates and we have some of the best terms for self-employed and new immigrants as well. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. We have another question here from Praveen. How is the feedback from clients about Zolo website, primarily user EXP ? Can agents help customize their search criteria?
I think I know what he's referring to. Currently, we don't have a really strong bridge on the experience for integrating agents with the consumer. Is something that definitely could be on the roadmap for Matt's team in the future. That kind of guided assistance that realtors add is really valuable, and I'm sure that we'll explore something like that in time.
Thanks, Jason. Haroon has a question. Commenting on the unique platform. Zolo has a fantastic unique platform in Canada. Does it have any plans for further exploit the massive opportunities in the commercial real estate market? I'm not sure who best can speak to this.
I take a go at that. Yeah, so absolutely, it's definitely a possibility. Haroon, I know the great work that you've been doing in commercial. The reason why we launched commercial is because there was a demand. Even through residential, we were seeing some consumers inquiring about commercial properties. So eventually, yes, absolutely, that there is a plan to look at commercial. Like anything at Zolo, we first want to test it, see sort of the response we get from consumers, and then look at further opportunities to enhance the customer experience. So absolutely, in the future, there will be some plans to look at enhancing commercial.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Here, probably maybe Matt or Riley, can Zolo use KV Core as the CRM? EXP uses KV Core as the CRM. If maybe you can address.
So just struggling with the mute button for a second there. Typically, if you're looking at integrating another CRM, and anything is technically possible, but obviously there's an existing CRM, and that would be potentially a integration project. It's something we could look into, but there's no, I don't know if there's necessarily plans around that. I don't know if that necessarily answers the question. It's a bit ambiguous, but.
I have another question here about for Jason. Love the front end customer experience. How does that translate into improvements in the back end CRM? So maybe this is actually, again, more for Matt or Riley.
Yeah, the CRM is interesting. I won't talk to it as I might have been more involved in the early days, but the CRM is really data driven, so it falls into the technology team's purview. From a consumer experience, I know that we try to collect as much data as possible, within reasonable means, and then utilize it in order to improve the user experience. But I won't talk to the agent's experience. I'll leave that to Matt or Riley.
So our CRM has a different set of goals than say a traditional real estate brokerage, because we actually have our own leads that flow through it that we need to keep absolute track on where they are in the sales funnel. So we majority use our CRM, as the agents have experienced, to just track where's the customer in the sales funnel, and then all that data feeds back into our marketing strategy and our consumer strategy, so we know how to get the best customers possible to convert it at the highest rate. And so this is why we need to have our own CRM, so that we can feed that data back into all of our consumer behavior, and so that we can target strong customers. Someone like EXP or Remax, because they don't have consumer leads, they don't really care about connecting the agent CRM to the consumer behavior on the website like we do.
Thanks so much. I have another question from Shoaib. Are you using the customer's feedback to support agents? Either maybe Mustafa or Jason.
That's probably going to be both of us. We definitely collect customer feedback, and a lot of times it's stuff that's not really new to us. We know about it. It's either on our roadmap or it hasn't been prioritized. But in terms of supporting agents, I'm not quite sure what the question is referring to. Maybe Mustafa understands a little bit better than I.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, customer feedback for all of us, it's really important. For me specifically, I look at it's the only way for us to really understand how the customers feel about using Zolo and working with our realtors. So I look at that very often, every day, as a matter of fact, and I still do talk to customers directly. And we want to make sure that the sort of experience, that whole customer journey, customer experience, is a good one. So we do use that. We use that for training. We use that for sort of feedback. We get, I'm sure Jason and his team gets a lot of website sort of related feedback, app related feedback. And that is ultimately, being a consumer brand, it is the most important thing to us. Hopefully that answers your question.
So sometimes the feedback's really, really valuable, and it's shocking on occasion where someone will use Zolo every hour for every day of the week, and then if we make a mistake and break something by accident, everyone notices really fast, and all of a sudden their 5-star reviews turn to 1-star reviews really, really quickly. So Matt and his team is probably hearing from me very fast in those situations. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. I just want to time We're at the 10-minute mark, and I'll continue with questions for now, but just to let you all know, that's where we're sitting. Jason, this is from Adil Akbar. Hi, Jason. Out of the total visits we are getting on Zolo.ca, how many or what percentage do you think are targeted to the relevant keywords?
I would like to say almost all of them. I think we do really well on getting traffic directly to addresses. People who are looking for more information, people who just enjoy the brand experience on Zolo are deliberate. They'll find an MLS number, or they'll find an address and actually search for it. And a lot of times we see they'll append Zolo to the end. So as those branded searches, as we call them, increase, it reflects, that affinity people have with our company, which is fantastic. In terms of head terms, cities, locations, property types, we do really well in that area as well. And so most of the traffic that we get is quite relevant.
I have another question from Adil Akbar. Do you think that real estate agents may be replaced by the technology or digital agents in the future?
Answer that. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because even though that I'm not a realtor and I come from maybe other spaces, people are always, being a realtor is about helping people get emotionally ready to buy. And it's going to be very hard to have technology replace that down the line. So you can always show people the numbers, or we can show people pictures, but somebody still has to hold their hand and help them make this the biggest transaction of their life that they're never going to do again. And having the human ultimately replaced, I think is not going to happen. There are going to be a percentage of people who can do it without the help, but the majority of consumers, they're always going to need that emotional help.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Riley. A question here from Zope. Can we get a daily market update from Zolo, or at least monthly market report with pre-formatted Zolo branding to post on social media? So similarly to what Century 21 does.
Yeah, that's a marketing opportunity. We've to date been very hesitant to put ourselves kind of in the front of the pack. We found that staying behind everybody else in terms of exposure to PR and stuff was our best strategy for building our audience. But things are changing. As we evolve Zolo, we're going to have to get into more brand marketing. And those opportunities, like you mentioned in the question, will be something that will be evaluated and see if we can put something together in the future.
Mute bell.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. The next question from Shoaib. Is there any way we can tell the customers or visitors of Zolo.ca that they are dealing with an agent, not a customer service agent?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, from when we first started to now, I would say the majority of customers know that Zolo is a real estate brokerage, but from time to time, they might think we're just a website portal. And I would highly encourage, because there's only so much, digital real estate space that we have. And when you try to explain things online, it becomes challenging and kind of affects the consumer experience. So I would say, I would recommend that you, as a realtor working with Zolo, educate your customers that you are in fact a licensed realtor. We are a licensed brokerage, and we can help you find, the home of your dreams.
Thanks, Mr. We're at about the 5-minute mark, so I'll go ahead and continue with a couple of questions. From Adil, what is the delay for showing listings which are coming on to MLS?
From
I think I think it's the. I think I even know the answer, but.
I mean, it does vary, but realistically, we're pulling listings like, I believe it's every 15 minutes. How long it takes to be pulled into the system will actually reconstitute images and optimize and kind of post it up to the site, slightly variable, but it's very quick. Like, we have a system permanently churning through that and pulling new listings in. So it's a little hard to give you exactly a timeline, but it's short.
Thank you. I'm going to direct the next question to you again. Matt, this is from Marguerite. Any blockchain transactions so far? And Mustafa, I think we did do this like a year ago, quite some time ago. What I want to say is maybe, Mustafa, you can answer the question about the transaction, and then maybe Matt can follow up with any other tidbits that you want to mention regarding blockchain.
Yeah, great question. We're not there yet, and I think it's exciting when we think about blockchain transactions and things like that. But I would say real estate, like Riley mentioned, is still very much a sort of a relationship, emotional business. So we could probably see in the next few years that technology being applied, even at Zolo. But would it replace the traditional way of sort of buying and selling real estate? That will probably take a lot longer, as we're just used to it. Like, this has been the way we buy, the way our parents have bought, the way their parents have bought. So it will happen, but it will be a slow sort of shift towards that type of technology.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, I've bought a house recently, and you realize how analog and antiquated certain parts of that process are. Like when people are still using fax machines to send documents to each other for legal reasons. Blockchain is this huge area of technology that isn't necessarily just about payments. It can be electronic contracts, so smart documents. It's this big greenfield area of technology that would be great to investigate in the future. It's just a little bit hard to necessarily apply it directly to what we're doing now. But I guess watch the space would be the what I'd say about that.
Question here about near-term goals. What are some of the near-term goals that we can look forward to? Maybe Riley or others, that might be a good question.
I'll start. I think I touched on that a little bit when I spoke about the future, and I think the areas that will be of interest to you are going to be our commitment to creating the resources that allow you to have the best knowledge, especially for new agents. You can see some of that on Zolo Academy already, but that's going to be an ongoing process. We'll continue to invest in tools of the trade. In the chat, you'll see I put a couple of comments on CRM with your growth managers. Give your feedback on CRM to growth managers. I spend tons of time speaking about that tool with them. And we have a project underway with tech right now to make an investment there. Changes have been happening over the last 2 weeks already, so hopefully you have seen some of those. And then a commitment to improving our communication, and that's both in us letting you know what the heck is going on as a company, but also a better job of us listening to you. And I think that today is one of the initiatives that goes to improve that, but certainly more to come there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got the last minute. There was another last question from Jane regarding, oh, sorry, she was responding to someone else on the chat. So I just want to say thank you so much. If there's any other final comments that any of the speakers want to make as we leave the stage. And again, thank you so much to the audience for joining.